You've probably felt it before, that sudden shift. One moment, everything feels electric. He's calling, texting, making plans. Then, almost without warning, he starts pulling away. The energy changes, the spark starts to dim. And you're left wondering, what happened? It's easy to blame yourself, to replay every conversation, every message, every moment in your head, trying to find the mistake. But the truth is, it's rarely about one big thing. It's the little habits, the subtle behaviors we're not even aware of that cause attraction to fade. This isn't about playing games or being someone you're not. It's about understanding how to show up in a way that keeps his respect, keeps his interest, and most importantly, keeps you in your power. Because men don't just lose interest out of nowhere. There are patterns. And once you see them, you can break them. Let's uncover the 7 silent ways women unknowingly cause men to lose interest, and how to shift the dynamic in your favor. When you meet someone new and feel a spark, it's easy to get swept up in the moment. You feel excited, hopeful, and maybe even a little bit nervous. You want to show your interest. You want him to feel special. So you give your time, your attention, your affection, sometimes all at once and with intensity. It feels romantic in the moment. It feels like you're nurturing something good, but giving too much too soon is one of the fastest ways to make a man lose interest. It's not that generosity is bad. It's not that affection or kindness or enthusiasm are wrong, but timing matters. Emotional investment has to match the stage of the connection. When you overinvest early, before a strong foundation has even been built, you unintentionally create imbalance. You start pouring energy into a situation where the other person hasn't earned that depth of access to you yet. Attraction needs space to breathe. It needs a sense of curiosity, a sense of discovery. When you give everything up front, your time, your energy, your emotions, you remove the mystery, you remove the journey, and more importantly, you remove the sense that your love, your presence, and your investment are something to be earned over time. Think about it this way. When someone gives you something, before you've done anything to earn it, it can feel a little overwhelming, even suspicious. You start to wonder what's driving their behavior. It creates pressure. It makes the connection feel lopsided, like one person is already all in while the other is still trying to decide if there's even a match. That kind of pressure often causes people to pull away, not because they're bad, but because they instinctively feel that things are moving faster than they're ready for. Men are no different. If they sense that a woman is already emotionally attached before any real bond has formed, it creates discomfort. It can feel like she's trying to make a relationship happen rather than allowing it to unfold naturally. And when that happens, it stops feeling romantic and starts feeling like obligation, like he now has to keep up with emotions he hasn't had the chance to develop yet. This doesn't mean you have to play games. It doesn't mean you should withhold affection or act distant to keep someone interested. It simply means pacing your emotional investment in a way that reflects the reality of what's been built. It means showing genuine interest while also allowing space for him to earn your trust, your time, and your deeper emotional availability. When you meet someone new, you don't need to bend over backwards to prove how good of a partner you'd be. You don't need to cook for him, rearrange your schedule for him, or make yourself overly available just to show you care. True interest doesn't need to be proved through over-perfectioning. The right person will be drawn to your presence, not your performance. The early stages of dating are not about auditioning. They're about observing. It's your time to get to know who he really is, not just to impress him with who you are. If you give too much too soon, you not only risk overwhelming him, but you also rob yourself of the chance to receive. You deserve to be pursued too. You deserve to see effort. And that can only happen if there's room for him to step up. It's important to recognize when your giving becomes a form of overcompensation. Sometimes we give too much because deep down we don't believe we're enough on our own. So we try to earn love through action. But love that's built on effort alone, instead of mutual connection and appreciation, is never sustainable. Instead of asking, how can I make him like me more? Ask, is this someone who's showing me consistent interest, effort, and respect? Because when you truly value yourself, you stop trying to convince others to do the same. You let them show you who they are, and you respond accordingly. So hold your pace, be warm, be open, but be balanced. Let your giving match the energy you receive. Let the connection grow with mutual effort, because the right relationship isn't built on one person doing all the work. It's built on shared excitement, shared investment, and the natural unfolding of two people who meet halfway again and again in the beginning. Stages of a romantic connection, it's natural to feel a pull toward the person you're seeing. You think about them, wonder what they're doing, and feel excited when your phone lights up with their name. But there's a subtle danger in letting that excitement consume your focus entirely. When you start neglecting your own life for the sake of a relationship, or even just the potential of one, it sends a powerful message, not just to him, but to yourself. The message is, my world revolves around you now. And while that might sound romantic in movies, in real life, it's one of the fastest ways to make someone lose interest. When a man senses that your life is slowly rearranging around him before anything has even been established, it changes the energy of the dynamic. In the beginning, people are drawn to confidence, independence, and mystery. They're intrigued by someone who has a full, interesting life, someone they have to earn time with, not someone who's sitting around waiting for their next move. But when he sees that you're always available, that you've started canceling plans, or that you've made him the center of your emotional world too early, something shifts. The attraction starts to dull, the challenge fades, and slowly he begins to feel less captivated. This isn't about pretending to be busy or playing hard to get. It's about truly honoring your own life, your routine, your passions, and your priorities. Before he came along, you had a rhythm. Maybe you went to the gym after work, had dinner with friends, curled up with a book on weekends, or focused on your career goals. Those things didn't stop being important just because someone new entered the picture. And when you maintain that rhythm, even while dating someone, it shows him something crucial, that you value yourself. A woman who keeps showing up for her own life is deeply attractive, not because she's trying to impress him, but because she's not losing herself in the process of getting to know someone. She's not putting her identity on hold to fit into his world. Instead, she invites him into hers, on her terms and at her pace. The irony is that when you give up your life for someone too early, they don't think, wow, she must really care. They think, she doesn't have much going on without me. And no matter how good your intentions are, that perception slowly chips away at the respect and intrigue that hold attraction together. Relationships thrive when both people bring something to the table. If you abandon your goals, interests, and independence too quickly, the dynamic becomes unbalanced You end up doing more, giving more, needing more. And that neediness often shows up as pressure. Men aren't scared of commitment. What they are scared of is being swallowed by someone else's life. If he feels like he's becoming your only source of happiness, or that your emotional state rises and falls depending on what he says or does, he'll instinctively pull away. Not because he doesn't like you, but because he's suddenly carrying more responsibility than he should at that stage. Emotional dependency feels heavy. And weight is the opposite of attraction. Think about the kind of energy you give off when you're fulfilled. When you've just had a great workout, a fun night with friends, or you're feeling inspired in your work, you radiate something magnetic. You're in your element. You're not waiting for someone to text you back to feel whole. That energy isn't just attractive. It's contagious. It invites someone to want to be a part of your life rather than feeling like they have to fill a void in it. If you find yourself constantly available, overly eager, or putting off your own plans just in case he calls, take a step back. Ask yourself what message you're sending, not just to him, but to yourself. Are you treating your time as valuable? Are you showing up as someone with purpose and passion? Or are you slowly becoming someone who orbits around someone else's world, hoping they'll choose to stay? Love should never require you to shrink your life. The right person won't be threatened by your independence. They'll be drawn to it. They'll admire your focus, your ambition, your joy, and they'll want to add to it, not take it away. So protect your rhythm, stay connected to your purpose. Keep doing what makes you feel alive. When a man sees that you're whole on your own, he won't lose interest. He'll lean in closer. Because the woman who doesn't abandon herself for love is the one who ends up with someone who truly values her. When you start seeing someone you really like, it's natural to want to know where you stand. You want to feel secure, to know he's thinking about you as much as you're thinking. But when that need for reassurance turns into a constant craving, it can become one of the biggest reasons a man begins to lose interest. Needing frequent validation might feel like you're just trying to understand where the relationship is going, but to him, it can feel like pressure, emotional weight, and even mistrust. Over time, that pressure erodes the very attraction that brought him to you in the first place. Attraction grows in space, not in control. When you're constantly asking for confirmation, do you still like me? Are you sure everything's okay? Why didn't you text me back? You communicate without realizing it that you don't trust his feelings. That you don't trust the connection unless he's constantly affirming it. And more importantly, it sends the message that your emotional stability depends on him saying the right thing at the right time. That's a lot of weight to place on someone, especially early in the relationship when he's still figuring out how he feels. The truth is, no one wants to feel like they're being monitored or tested. When a man senses that every action he takes or doesn't take triggers an emotional reaction from you, he starts to withdraw. Not because he doesn't like you, but because it starts to feel like no matter what he does, it's never enough. Even his genuine efforts get filtered through a lens of doubt. Over time, that kind of emotional fragility makes him feel more like he's managing your emotions than building a connection. And when that happens, attraction begins to fade. This isn't about being cold or pretending you don't care. It's about learning how to regulate your own emotions so that you don't make someone else responsible for calming your anxiety. Confidence is not about never having fears or doubts. It's about how you manage them. When you feel uncertain, the most powerful thing you can do is pause and ask yourself, what do I need right now that I'm expecting him to provide? Often, the answer is reassurance, safety, or clarity. And while it's okay to want those things, it's not fair to expect someone else to constantly supply them for you. Reassurance should be a gift, not a requirement. When someone chooses to express their feelings or confirm their interest, it should come from a genuine place, not because they're trying to ease your anxiety. The more you rely on someone else to validate your worth, the more you hand them control over your self-esteem. And ironically, that kind of dependence often pushes them away rather than pulling them closer. What creates real confidence is knowing that you'll be okay whether someone chooses to stay or walk away. It's being able to sit with uncertainty without letting it derail you. It's recognizing that someone not texting back right away doesn't mean you're not good enough. It might mean they're busy, distracted, or simply taking their time. When you trust yourself, you stop trying to read between every line. You stop needing constant reminders that you're wanted. And that shift changes everything. Men are drawn to women who are emotionally self-sufficient, not because they don't want to support or connect, but because they want to feel like they're choosing to give affection, not being required to give it just to keep the peace. When you're calm, centered, and secure in yourself, you give him space to want to reach out. You allow him to miss you, to wonder about you, to be curious. That space is what creates the natural pull of attraction. On the other hand, if every silence leads to panic, if every short reply leads to confrontation, it becomes exhausting. Relationships aren't supposed to be emotional tightropes. And no one wants to feel like they're walking on eggshells, trying to constantly reassure someone who doesn't feel secure in themselves. So the next time you feel the urge to ask for reassurance, pause, take a breath, remind yourself of who you are. You're not someone who begs for clarity. You observe actions. You're not someone who needs constant confirmation. You trust your intuition. And you're not someone who panics at the first sign of distance. You understand that real connection takes time, and space is part of the process. When you bring that kind of self-trust into a relationship, everything changes. He doesn't feel pressure, he feels peace. He doesn't feel tested, he feels chosen. And that's what keeps interest alive. Not your need for validation, but your ability to stand strong even when things feel uncertain. Because the woman who trusts herself is the woman he won't want to lose. One of the most common ways a woman unintentionally causes a man to lose interest is by overanalyzing and overreacting to his every move. In the early stages of dating, everything feels heightened. You're paying attention to how often he texts, how long it takes him to reply, the way he words his messages, how affectionate he is, whether he compliments you enough, and if he's showing signs of pulling away. It's easy to fall into the trap of interpreting every small shift as a major red flag. But when you constantly analyze his behavior, looking for meaning in every detail, you shift from being present and relaxed to being emotionally hypervigilant. And that energy is not only exhausting for you, it's draining for him too. When a man feels like everything he does is being scrutinized, he begins to feel like he's under constant surveillance. A delayed reply turns into a conversation about why he's distant. A cancelled plan becomes a question of priorities. A slightly different tone in his voice becomes a cue for an emotional investigation. And soon, he feels like he can't just be himself without triggering a reaction. That kind of tension chips away at the natural ease and joy that early dating should have. He starts feeling like he's failing tests he didn't know he was taking. And when someone feels they can't relax around you, they naturally start pulling back. It's not that your feelings aren't valid. It's not that you should ignore your intuition if something feels truly off. But not every shift in tone, timing, or behavior is a red flag. Sometimes people have off days. Sometimes they're stressed, distracted, or just not as communicative. If your instinct is to immediately personalize their behavior and assume it's about you, that pattern of overreaction can become toxic over time. It puts the other person in a position where they feel they're constantly managing your emotions instead of building a connection. What keeps a man interested isn't someone who's perfect or emotionless. It's someone who knows how to respond instead of react. Responding means observing his actions and letting the picture reveal itself over time rather than drawing conclusions prematurely. Reacting, on the other hand, means jumping to assumptions, confronting him emotionally, or spiraling into insecurity the moment something changes. The difference is subtle but powerful. Responding comes from self-trust. Reacting comes from fear. A confident woman doesn't assume the worst at the first sign of uncertainty. She stays grounded. She watches, she listens, she pays attention, but she doesn't cling. If a man is genuinely losing interest, it will become clear without needing to force conversations or obsess over clues. And if he's just having a moment, she gives him space to move through it without punishing him for it. That calm confidence is magnetic. It tells him, I'm interested, but I'm not dependent on you for my sense of security. When you give a man room to show up, rather than pressuring him for answers before he's ready, you create space for genuine connection. That doesn't mean ignoring your standards. It doesn't mean tolerating poor behavior or pretending you don't care. It means recognizing the difference between emotional patterns that are actually concerning and temporary human behavior that doesn't need to be overblown. And if something continues to feel off, you don't confront with accusations. You simply state your truth. You ask a clear question. You express how you feel calmly and directly. And you watch how he responds. Men respect women who bring calm into chaos, who don't let fear dictate their actions, who don't make the relationship heavier than it needs to be, especially in the early stages, because that calmness makes them feel safe too. It gives them room to be themselves, to move at their own pace, and to open up in a way that feels organic rather than forced. If every conversation becomes about what he did wrong or what he's not doing enough of, he'll associate being around you with stress rather than connection. Attraction grows in lightness, in laughter, in shared presence, not in constant questioning. The woman who knows how to pause, breathe, and trust the process is the woman who holds his attention far longer than the one who's constantly trying to control the outcome. So the next time you feel that urge to jump to conclusions, take a step back. Ask yourself, am I reacting to a pattern or to a moment? If it's just a moment, let it pass. If it becomes a pattern, then you address it. But never let fear become the driver of your actions. Because the moment you stop chasing certainty and start anchoring into your own self-trust, you become the kind of woman a man doesn't want to walk away from.